Okay, so again, we are here back again with this questions and answer and more information about real estate in United States for sure. And today I have Bowic here. He's from one of the major and leading escrow and title company. And yeah, Bowic will share more with us regarding this area, because I believe many people have many questions, especially like foreigners, their first time coming here and don't know what is escrow and title company, what is the usage, and what are they, what kind of work they do. So without further ado, Bowic, would you mind explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, thank you, Wallen. It's my pleasure and honor to be here to share with you what is title and escrow. So let me share my screen.
Okay.
Okay, let's start with title. So title actually is a title insurance protection. So our company, after we receive a order, we do title search. We try to do title search and then prepare a report. So normally you can consider we are a reserve company, and then prepare a report to indicate who has the authority to sell. So title equal to research and report. So we do the research and then examine the data and then prepare a report. So how to use the report? We guarantee who is the owner. That means we will find out who is the owner, who has the authority to sell the property. At the same time, if the buyer want to borrow money from lender, we will also to guarantee the buyer, the borrower have the authority to borrow money from the lender. So that means we are also going to search the name not only the seller, but also the buyer, and then put on the report. In case of any problem with the buyer's name, then the lender will need to know. And the most important thing here is the last one. We will ensure the title is free and clear to transfer to the new owner. So you may not understand what is a free and clear. For example, there's some violation on the property, some lien or judgment against the property or the seller. So we will need to ensure those kind of things, remove, or get the information to remove after closing or before closing. Then we can transfer the title interest to the buyer free and clear. So that's the main function of title insurance protection. And in Washington, the seller will buy a owner title policy to protect the buyer. So seller pay for that to protect the buyer. There are different kind of, the title owner policy, but we are not going to go through the detail here. At the same time, when the buyer borrow money from the lender, the buyer also need to buy title insurance to protect the lender. So that is the lender title policy. So the buyer will pay for that. So, title insurance is a protection. So that is title. So let us go to escrow. Escrow basically is a mutual third party, handle the transaction. So basically, here's my training provided to real estate agent. So escrow, they were based on the instruction. They were based on the instruction on the purchase and sale agreement here, and based on the situation of the title report, and based on the instruction from the seller's lender, buyer's lender, and listing agent, buyer agent, and all the party in the transaction, based on the instruction on those different kind of parties to handle the transaction. And escrow will ensure, we work with title together to ensure the title is free and clear, and also will ensure to receive the money from the buyer and buyer's lender if buyer borrow money. So after escrow get all the money from buyer and buyer's lender, and after the buyer and also the seller sign all the closing document, escrow can close the file. So basically, it's escrow and title working together in Washington to close the transaction. We're keep talking about Washington. In another state, they may have a little bit different, procedure to handle a closing real estate transaction. But in Washington, escrow and title working together. So that's a basic title and escrow. So Warren, do you
Okay.
have any question about that?
Yeah, so boy, because like I mentioned earlier of the video,
Mhm.
escrow is kind of new for some people, like
Mhm.
foreigners. I have encountered with so many foreigners clients. So whenever I said, okay, now we have to submit the earnest money to the escrow, and then they say, hey, what is escrow? And then do we really need that? So I explained to them, like how you explained earlier, what's the purpose of the company and why do we have that. Now, boy, is there any case in the US that people do this kind of transaction, real estate transaction, without using escrow company? Have you ever heard those kind of things?
Okay, yeah,
Have you
good question.
Mhm.
So I would say, firstly, depends on the country. I came from Hong Kong. So in Hong
Mhm.
Kong, actually, the law company, the law firm, they handle the closing. So
Okay.
escrow, you can consider escrow, the duty of escrow is equal to a law firm. For example,
Mhm.
we need to get a special license from the Washington Bar Association. So that means we have a particular legal duty or legal authority to prepare legal document to transfer a transaction similar to attorney. So you can
Mhm.
consider escrow similar to a law firm. Yeah, but only focus or mainly focus on a real estate transaction.
Mhm.
And because of this, of course, in Washington, you can choose to have an escrow handle a transaction. You can also use law company, the law firm, as an attorney to handle the transaction. So normally, the two major group of company handle transaction. Can the buyer and seller handle that by themselves? Well, if they have the legal knowledge, if they know how to prepare those legal documents, so of course they can prepare some document to do the recording to transfer title. But majority of people, they don't have this knowledge. But of course,
Mhm.
if seller or buyer, their attorney, they have this kind of legal knowledge, they may be able to do that. But normally they
Mhm.
will go for escrow and law company. Majority, I would say 99% go for escrow.
Okay. Yeah, that's a very good information there because like you mentioned earlier, escrow is also somewhat legal firm that
Yeah, law company,
yeah,
you
that
say.
kind of
Yeah.
meant, yeah, law company. Yeah, I think like I agree when you mentioned earlier that you're from Hong Kong. You have the similarity.
Mhm.
Also back in Indonesia, where I'm from, we usually use what we know the notary. They are the third party that helps in the process of buying and selling. So, and also they are the legal in this term. Okay, thank you, Boy, for that. And also now, Boy, what kind of documents and what kind of funds are going into escrow actually? So, yeah, if you can explain more.
Yeah, so normally in a transaction, of course, the
Mhm.
buyer will pay to buy a property. So in the
Mhm.
beginning of a transaction, according to the contract, majority of the time, the buyer will need to deposit the earnest money. So earnest money probably a few percent of the transaction. So
Mhm.
in the beginning, the buyer will need to deposit the earnest money to escrow,
Okay.
and then escrow, handle the file, and later before closing the most of the time, of course, the buyer will borrow money from lender. So another big amount of monies come from the buyer's lender. And
Mhm.
the rest of the money, of course, is from the buyer, the balance is from the buyer, the down payment. So
Right.
combined together, escrow need to receive all the money, ensure we have all the money, then we can release the file to recording. Release the file to recording. That means release the document to the government, to the King County, for example,
Right.
to do the recording. After the recording, that means the transaction finished. That means the ownership transfer from the seller to the buyer.
Okay. Thank you
Mhm.
for the information.
Yeah.
Now, how long does the escrow process take? And also earlier we mentioned about the money sent from the escrow. Maybe tag along on that question. Who
Mm,
pays for the escrow actually? And
mm,
of course the title altogether.
Okay.
Um,
So in Washington, actually, buyer and seller, both of them, they will pay for escrow.
mhm.
So they will pay I should say they pay equally. So let me give you an example. Let me share the screen, and then
Okay.
because I did prepare something to show you.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
So look at the screen here. So
Uh-huh.
for $1 million, I know you're going to ask me how much the escrow and title. So
Right.
using the real example, for $1 million US, the escrow and this is the buy is the seller side. So
Mm-hmm.
for $1 million, the seller will need to pay, the title insurance to protect the buyer, and also the seller need the seller escrow fees. So
Okay.
title and escrow combined together, I just make a quick calculation, is about
Right.
0.4 or 0.5% of the sales price. About
Mm.
the amount. Yeah, I mean
Okay.
it's not a special formula, because when the price up or down, the price changes a little bit. So yeah, but you can consider around 0.4, 0.5%. And because as I mentioned, this is the seller side of escrow fees. The
Okay.
buyer also need to pay the same amount.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, Boy, for that.
Uh-huh.
And so for the escrow process, Boy, how long
Okay.
does
How
the
long?
escrow
Yeah.
process? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I should say depends. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Most of the time, when the buyer borrow money, majority of the transaction, they normally take around 1 month for closing.
Okay.
Yeah. But of course, if the buyer are willing to pay cash, we can do much faster. But I should say normally 2 weeks or sooner, depends
Right.
on the situation. So what kind of
Right.
situation? Depends on the seller. For example, do the seller have a mortgage? Who is the lender of the seller's lender? Some of the lender, when I have the seller social security number and loan number, for example, Wells Fargo and Property Funding, I can get the loan payoff in 1 minute. But some of
Mm-hmm.
the lender, they request us to fax the request to them, and then they will take 10 business days to handle the payout request, because we need the lender to give us the payout request to say, the seller is selling this property. This is the amount the seller need to pay. I mean, actually, escrow we need to pay at closing to the seller's lender. So
Mm-hmm.
this is one of the situations. How, I mean, do the seller have any mortgage? Who is the lender? And also,
Mm.
is there any problem on the title report? That mean, is there any judgment against the seller? Any lien against the property? Any violation? Any special violation notice from the government, or those kind of red flag? So if they have that kind of, special red flags against the property or the seller, we may or may not able to close in 2 weeks. So that's why, for example, if you are making an offer for a rush closing in 2 weeks, then better let us double check the title report to see if there any special problem on this transaction. Yeah,
Mm. Yeah.
2 weeks
Good
or
question.
sooner
A
for
good
cash
answer.
deal. Yeah, if borrow money, 1 month
Yeah.
for closing. Yeah.
Okay. Now, that's about the timing, right? How about,
Mhm.
is there any different in cost between buyer purchase with cash versus buyer purchase with loan? Will
Yeah, of
there
course.
okay.
When we talk about the title insurance protection,
Mhm.
if the
Right.
buyer borrow money from the lender, the buyer will need to buy another title insurance to protect
Mm.
the lender. So that's,
Right.
probably another $500-600. Of course, depends on the loan amount, of course. Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay. Good. Good. Yeah, good to know.
Yeah. And
Now.
one more
Mhm.
things. The buyer will need to pay the recording fees to
Mm.
recording the deed to transfer. I mean, the deed is the seller transfer title
Right.
to the buyer. And also, if buyer borrow money, there's another legal document called deed of trust. So that those kind of, two major documents need the recording. And and the government, they increase the recording fees a lot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Let's say, 15 years ago when I handled the closing, at that time, I mean, the recording fee probably around 100 something. And,
Mhm.
I think they was around $70 or $80 the first page. And then all other page, they will add $1. And then starting this year, I think the first page they charge probably $200 or something. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Government
Okay.
charge a lot.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Mhm.
No, boy. Now let's jump into the title.
Yeah.
I found like so many people mistakenly understood about title insurance.
Yeah.
Because whenever that we showed that on the 22A form, the financial addendum, there's a section mentioning about title insurance, right? Now, people usually mistaken that what is title insurance? Most of the time thought it is a in-house insurance, the home insurance, because I need the standard cover or the other one, extended one. But actually, I used to tell my client, no, this is not how the house insurance. This is a different one. This is title insurance.
Yeah,
Now,
title.
on a simple word, I mean, maybe explanation, title insurance that like because earlier you mentioned there are several part. In default, when people do purchase in real estate, it goes to the standard coverage, right? For the title insurance. Oh, it's not.
No. So
Okay.
in Washington, if you are using the Northwest MLS, the purchase and sale agreement, by default they use the ALTA homeowner policy.
Oh, owner policy. Oh,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah,
ALTA,
yeah.
ALTA homeowner policy, and then on the form 22D, actually you have another option for the standard policy or the extended policy. Yeah.
Right.
So let me go to the slide, and you can look at that more. Okay.
There you go.
So
Yeah.
if you look at the slide, by default they will use the ALTA homeowner policy. So this is the default on the MLS purchase and sale agreement, and of course they have another option to take the box standard or extended policy.
Right.
So as a simple what I call, because you asked me about the title policy, so try to make it simple. I would say majority of people, they will just use the ALTA policy, because the ALTA policy have more protection compared with the standard policy. So that's why ALTA policy, there are more protection. And normally we would not consider the extended policy, because for the extended policy, it's just compare apple to orange. Extended policy, the buyer will need to pay survey in order to qualify for the extended homeowner policy. And then normally in Washington, probably the buyer may need to pay $7,000 or $8,000 for that. So majority of people, of course, the buyer are not willing to pay for that. So that's why we normally don't. I mean, I would say I only see that probably a few times for extended policy. So majority of the file, almost all, they're using the
ALTA
homeowner policy. But of course, this is also depends on the buyer. So what I mean, if the buyer is a LLC, that means the buyer is not a what I call it.
Natural.
It's not a natural person. It's not a person. It's a LLC. Then they will need to use that standard. Yeah.
Right. There you go. Yeah. So okay, no, it's great that we bring up about the LLC, the limited liability companies, because most of people been asking this. What if I purchase my property with LLC, right? Because I can cover at least the name, so the name is not shown, as like person A is the owner of this property here. So by having the LLC, as the name, then it's safe. So, Boy, other than that, what are the pros and cons of having LLC? As when we purchase a real estate, because number one, we already know by having LLC, we cannot get the homeowners coverage. We only get the standard one. But where versus if they put their name, the personal name, they can get the homeowners coverage, right? Any other pros and cons in terms of having LLC in this realm of escrow, title, and coverage?
This question I cannot answer, because this considered legal advice. I'm not supposed to give legal advice. Yeah, but I can only say that because you mentioned that, for example, Judy mentioned that some buyer, they don't want to disclose their name, so that's why they use the LLC to buy a property.
Right.
Well, yes or no, because there's another policy called FinCEN. Yeah, FinCEN policy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, actually, for example, when a buyer using the ABC LLC to buy a property, we need to ask all members, yes, all members of this ABC LLC company to fill the form. So we will
Right.
send the form to the government. Although for example, for example, this ABC LLC company, for example, they have 10 members. So on the public record, the people only see for example, the manager of this ABC company sign the contract for example, they borrow money, then they'll sign the deed of trust as a public record to close this transaction. They may not see all the members on this LLC. That means all the members is not public information, but the government, they will need to know. Yeah.
I see. Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, that's true. Yeah, because I have people, they always ask me this question because they say, hey, I heard my friend bought a house here. They use LLC, and then it's easy to put members' names, right? Like, oh, I can put my wife's name here, or I can put my friend's name here. So it'll be easier. And when they try to acquire some property. Now, while discussing about the names, right? Other questions that I usually have is about, hey, I'm planning to purchase a house, but can I put my daughter, as the name in the title, or my son who currently in the college, in university, can I have my son's name in the title? What do you think about that, Boy?
Okay, before I answer that question, let me add one more thing to the LLC. So
Okay.
if the buyer buy property with the ABC LLC, so if the buyer borrow money from lender, they may have more difficulties because from what I observe, majority of the lender, they may not willing to borrow money to the LLC company.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, they most likely will be willing to borrow money, lender, individual borrow the money from the lender. But for the LLC, they may or may not. So that's why the buyer may need to double check with their lender before they make a decision to use a LLC to buy a property or not. Some lender may be okay. They may use the individual guarantee or something. Yeah, depends on the lender. Will the interest rate be more higher? I don't know. Double check. Yeah. So
Yeah.
okay, go back to your question.
Right.
So adding a children to title, I think you means buying the property together with the children.
Correct.
Policy. Yeah. I should say depends on the age of their children. So
Okay.
if they are younger than 18 years old, they are considered minor. So in Washington, the minor, they are not supposed to, not supposed, the minor, if the minor sign a contract, the contract is not forcible. So, and also the lender also will not accept a minor to sign the deed of trust or the loan document. So that's why the seller, the buyer, they will need to add that to their consideration. Yeah. So, and also, let's actually, let me give you an example. We have one transaction. So years ago, another title company handled that transaction. So let's say 4 years ago, a agent helped a couple to buy a property. So for some unknown reason, they add a 10 years old, 10 years old boy to the transaction. And another title company, I'm not going to comment on their behavior. Somehow, I think they did not pay attention or whatever their policy, they close the transaction, and even they have a mortgage.
Wow.
So, and now they want to sell the property. 2 years ago, that the boy was 10 years old. Now it's only 12 years old. So the minor cannot sign contract to sell the property. So because of that, they will need to go through a legal procedure. They will need to talk to the attorney to find the guardianship, the court order for the parent to sign for the children. So the parent will not automatically, get the authority to sign for the children. They will need to go through a legal procedure. So it kind of become complicated. They are taking months to make that happen. So
right.
yeah,
Wow.
so
Yeah, that's crucial.
may not be a good idea.
Okay,
Of
I
course,
think
they
the
can.
yeah.
Of course, if they can wait, until how many years? 5, 6 years later, they can sell.
Until until the kid is 8,
Yeah.
17 or 18 years old, then they probably can decide, okay, you can sign now. With that,
Yeah,
we can sell.
you can sell now. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Wow,
price may
that's
be better.
right. That was interesting, huh? I mean, the other escrow allowed that to happen. So that's
Yeah, it's kind
yeah,
of wow. I mean,
yeah.
yeah,
So that, yeah, I think the take from here is, make sure you work with well-known and one of the biggest escrow company here, right? Don't try, playing with
yeah,
some random, and then you ended up with this kind of result. Maybe so for some people, this is just a small thing, but this small thing could end up in a big things later on, right? So wow,
yes.
that's a good, yeah, very. Thank you for the example, boy.
Yeah,
I think, Boy, I think I only have one more questions last.
sure.
Maybe this is about this title report.
Mhm.
When we search for houses, usually the agent can give seller's disclosure about the property. I'm talking about the buyer's agent here, and also the preliminary title, which is the title that the seller has opened.
Mhm.
Now, my question is, who should review this title documents? The preliminary, I'm talking about the preliminary title, because usually if your buyer, especially if they're foreigners, what is this? I never seen this
Mhm.
documents. What should we do with this? Because usually they will ask the agents here, right? So what do you think about this kind of situation, boy?
Okay. So
Mhm.
I review the title report all the times. I think this
Right.
morning before this meeting, I review probably 5 or 10 title report
Oh my
already.
gosh.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
but of course, as a real estate agent, I should say, come to my class to learn how to read title report. At
Right.
least I mean, as a real estate agent, he or she at least need to know the basic. And then when he or she know the basic, and then I mean, when there's anything special on the report, when she or he don't understand, they can always call the related title company to double check to see how that paragraph on the title report affect the closing. So that means
Right.
my answer is, I don't expect all the real estate agent become an expert on
Right.
reading title report, but at least need to know the basic. So, for
Right.
example, when the title report clearly saying that there's a big judgment against the seller, there's a big violation against the property.
Right.
The police department is forfeiture the property. You know, when the big paragraph indicate on the title report, if the buyer agent totally have no idea, and then they just write on the contract, and I mean, end up they may or may not able to close the transaction, and then the buyer may not be happy. So
Correct.
know the basic. Whenever there's some special paragraph don't understand, then call title to discuss. But of course, if that's my file, my company's file, you can always call me to discuss.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I also always come to your classes.
Yeah.
Very helpful, especially
Mhm.
for new agents. This is very helpful information that you can get. I think fruitful discussion as well.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
more than that, yeah, and you're also available, to answer quite, should the agent has some difficulties. That's what I like about working with you, boy. So thank you for that. Yeah, and then
You're welcome.
yeah, and we have several, interesting cases as well in the past that
Yeah.
we found very interesting. But anyway, yeah, I think, yeah, today is a very good discussion to start. For those who first time maybe looking to purchase a house, trying to understand more that they, maybe so they feel more comfortable in, do purchase some properties here or invest in here.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, that's that we have for today, and then, yeah, looking forward to discuss with you again in the future for other topics.
Sure.
Thank you, boy.
And take
Yeah,
care. Bye now.
thank you. Bye bye.